Hi, I'm Andy from Tedswoodworking, and today I'm going to show you how to tile a bathroom floor. Now, in our mock studio today, we've got our bathroom floor in question. We're actually going on to timber, so we will need to unibond this, and I'll show you all the tools and materials that we need to use to tile this floor in question today. Now, our pottery is already fitted. The bath can stay in place, I'm not too worried about that. Now, obviously, you know, if it's the first time you're tiling, if you have got a friend who's a plumber or you're quite confident in plumbing yourself, it is best to always take your pottery out. Disconnect your hot and cold supplies for your basin, take your pedestal out, disconnect your cold supply for your toilet and take your toilet out. Obviously, if you can't do this, you're going to have to get yourself a set of pinchers, and these are the pinchers, sort of pinchers that you'll need. A floor tile is obviously, you know, can be thicker than a wall tile. They're quite hard to notch, and it will take you quite a lot of time to create the shapes on the pottery. Anyway, moving on. The tools and materials that we're going to need for the job in question today. We've got ourselves some unibond because we're going to be tiling onto a wooden floor. We've got a little roller and a little roller tray. We've got a brush. I've got a spirit level here which I'm going to use as a straight edge. I've got some sponges just for cleaning off afterwards. Now I've got some notch trowels here. I've got a notch trowel that is probably about a 5mm cutout, and I've got a 20mm cutout. Now obviously, if your floor at home is very uneven, you will need the deep notch trowel. We're going to use the 5mm notch trowel today because we're going onto a timber floor. Now I've also got a mixing trowel. I've got some Mappy Keraquick Rapid Set Flexible Tile Adhesive. Because we're going onto a wooden floor, we want it to be flexible. It is rapid set. If you're tiling for the first time at home, then I would suggest don't use the rapid set, because obviously the rapid set goes off pretty quickly, and if you're doing your cuts, by the time you've done your cuts, it's gone off. So anyway, I would use the ordinary setting, but we're going to use the rapid set today. I've also got a squeegee, which is for our grout. I've got a bag of grey grout. I've got a tile cutter. Now this is a wet cutter, fantastic for doing floor tiles. I'll show you a few cuts with this. I mean, you can hire one if you're going to, just going to be doing some tiling for the first time. You might be best just hiring one, or if a friend has got one, then you obviously borrow it off of them. I've got some tiles. We're going to be laying about 8 square meters today. These are the tiles that we're going to use, and we've got obviously more in boxes, and I'll show you as we go along, the fixing process that we're going to use to fix these to the floor. We've got 4mm spacers that we're going to put in between the tiles. Now we're going to do a lot of cutting with the Ruby cutter. Fantastic bit of kit, use these all the time. We've also got 2 buckets. We're going to obviously have a bucket for our sponge for cleaning off our tiles, and then a bucket just to knock our adhesive up. So anyway, right, that's all the tools and materials that we're going to use today to do our job, and we'll move on to the tiling and we'll show you how to do that. Okay, moving on to the bit of tiling we're going to do today. Obviously, there's so many different shapes, sizes to bathrooms. Obviously our bathroom here, I'm just going to show you the basics of tiling. Always best to try and get your tiles maybe working to the centre of your toilet and cistern, to your pan, or on your basin and pedestal. You might have a full tile coming off there, you might have a cut tile coming off of there. Always best to try and get nice cuts to the edge of each wall, and then as you're working towards your exit door, you want a nice cut there. There's so many different, like I say, so many different sized bathrooms, so many different scenarios. But obviously we're working on this today, and I'll just show you the basic principles of our room that we've got out here today. So what I'll do is I'll measure the width of our room, which is 2840. So I want to say that's about 1420, which gives me my middle point of my room. And then the best thing is just grab yourself a tile that you're working with. Put this on the edge of your line, and then see what your cuts are to the right hand side. Obviously, because we've made that the centre of the room, the cut to the right hand side will duplicate that to the cut to the left hand wall. So what we do is just mark that off. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, and as you can see from our finished point there, we've got a nice cut to that wall there, and that will obviously give us the same cut the other end. Regarding the bath, what we want to do once we've squared everything up you know, 99% of the times the rooms are not square, but if you've got a nice square room, then what we want to do is either come with about 3/4 of a tile. Once our bath panel's on, we'll have a 3/4 of a tile showing, or in fact even a half a tile. What you want to try and avoid is you know, small cuts to walls and exit doors and baths and so on and so forth. Right, okay, I know that I've got the centre of my room there, so what I want to do is try and get some measurements going. So what we do is spring off of this wall here, and I know that off that wall, I know that wall's pretty level, so I'm happy with that. So we measure 1420, go a little bit further up, just so we can run our lines through. We measure again 1420, just put a little arrow on that, and a little arrow on that. Let's redo that because I've got a few marks on the floor. There we go, there's 1420 there. Right, straight edge, spirit level, whatever you can find as a straight edge. What we do, we've got our spirit level that we're working as a straight edge. So we'll run this through our 2 lines, like so. Just get that on with a pencil or a marker pen or whatever. Just run this through, like so. And I know that is going to be my starting line where I'm going to spring off from. And then, like I say, if we work to say 3/4 of a tile, say 300 off of there, we're going to be approximately touching the legs. So if I just line that through, like so, there's so many ways of doing this. I always find this is the best way. I know that line's straight, so what we do, we get our straight edge again, and we just run this off of our pencil line at a point. Again, with your pencil, just mark this off. And when you start laying your tiles, if you come off of these lines, every time you put your spacers in, your tiles are going to be straight all the way through. So, right, what we're going to do, on this point here is actually our starting point. So we're going to lay our first tile off of that, and we'll run along our line, come this way, work into the bath, and then as we go along, I'll show you the best way to do it. Obviously, we're working on a wooden floor. You know, we need to use a PVA adhesive on this floor, just so it helps it key and it doesn't drain out all the moisture in the adhesive, because it will suck it out. So, right, what we got a tiny bit of water there. We put some PVA in that bucket and just pour some of that in, like so. We just give that a little stir up with our brush. Now you can put this on with brush, you can put it on with a broom or whatever. I've got a little roller tray here, I can pour that into the roller tray. But what I tend to do is just knock this up, get myself a little tiny roller, and what you want to do is do the whole entire area. All you do is just pour this onto the surface, like so, and then just work this in all the way across, like so. And what you want to do is you want to carry out this procedure until the whole bathroom floor is covered with PVA. Let that dry, and then bang, you're ready to start tiling. Okay, now we've uni-bonded our floor. We've left that about half hour, 40 minutes or so. Right, next thing is obviously start mixing up our tile adhesive. So what we do is, remember, powdered adhesive always gives off a fair bit of dust, so if you've got a mask at home, always advisable to wear a mask. Let me just stick my mask on, like so. Right, what I want to do is pour some water into my mixing bucket. Again, like I say, I'm using rapid set, so I don't want too much water in there. So what we do is get our bag and we slowly pour this into our water. You don't want this to be too thick. I'll show you the consistency once I've knocked it up. Always add a bit more powder if you want to. So with our mixing trowel, we just bring this together with the water. Now you can get different coloured adhesives. You can get a white powdered adhesive, and you can get obviously this grey adhesive. We're going to be using grey tiles. We're going to be using grey grout, so that's why we're using the dark coloured adhesive. If you're using white grout at home on the floor or on the wall or whatever you're doing, always best to use a white powder, because if you get any grey coming through the tile line and you haven't washed it out properly, when you come to grout it, you'll actually see it. And it's right, that's coming together nicely, like so. And try and get all the lumps out if you can. If you've got a mixing drill at home, then obviously you can do it with that. I'm quite happy with using our trowel here. So that's the sort of consistency you're looking for. So I'll show you what to do next. We'll just bring this over. Now I'm just going to do a few straight cuts. Sorry, lay a few straight tiles, and then obviously as we get through laying more tiles, what we do is I'll show you how to cut with a wet cutter, and then obviously how to cut with our ruby cutter. So first things first, obviously we know our starting point here. We've got our lines on the floor. So what we want to do is just spread some of this adhesive, like so. Good thing about rapid set adhesive is it goes off pretty quickly. What I normally do is just lay a section first of all, get 3, 4, maybe 5 tiles down off of your lines, and then once that's gone off, then you can start pushing the tiles against each other, and they're not, they're not going to move out of position. So what we do, we're doing enough to do, let's say, a bank of 6 tiles. Eh? So just spread this adhesive out. Now, like I say, if your floor's running out, you will need to get a deep notch trowel. But our floor's nice and level. You can actually level your tiles in, but like I say, our floor is nice and level, so I'm just going to go to that today. Right, let's just get my pencil, and we just mark this off so I roughly know where I'm going to be coming with my bank of 6 tiles. So I'll roughly be coming there, so I can wipe just some of that excess off so it doesn't go off. So that's what we do, like so. And then again, get your tile, lay it on your point where you've marked it. Get your lines nice and straight, so you're on your line on your back edge of tile, on your side of your tile. And I know I'm bang on my line there. Now, a lot of tilers, they use spacers. Some tilers don't use spacers. It's entirely up to you. Obviously, if you're going to be doing it for the first time, then I'd highly recommend that you use spacers. So get a couple of tiles down on your lines. I've got exactly like that. And then once you're happy with your lines that it's all going through, want to just get some tile spacers in there. Now you can lay tile spacers within the joints and leave them in there. On the floor tiles, what we normally do is just place these in. That's still on my outside line, just bring that across a little bit, like so. Again, spread that apart, get another couple of spaces in there. And obviously once this adhesive's gone off, good thing about tile spacers is I pull them out, I can reuse them. So good, good invention for a bit of plastic. So again, lay your tile like so. Get another one down. And if you just get your head down to almost the level of the tile, you'll see, if you need to push it down a little bit, just make sure they're nice and level. So again, not a job you want to rush really, just take your time. So again, tile spacer on the top section. What you want to do is get it on each corner like so, and then you're going to have a 4mm, nice 4mm joint running all the way through. Gives you a nice little bit of time, the rapid set. Obviously if you're working with standard set, you won't be able to walk on it straight away. So we just pull them over, just make sure you're happy with all your lines, like so. And then what we do is we will just clean up our edges, because once this stuff goes off, you'll have to get yourself hammer and chisel or hammer and bolts to knock it off. That's nice and clean, like so. And like I say, I'd normally leave that for half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, let that go off. Once that's gone off, and you're happy that it's nice and secure, pull your tile spacers off, start spreading the rest of your bathroom, and then obviously you can then start laying your tiles. But what I mean is when your tile goes off, you can actually push that in there, and you can push against the tile, and them tiles don't go anywhere, they're nice and secure. So what you want to do is you want to continue that all the way through your bathroom, and then sometimes we do the cuts as we go, all depends the size of the bathroom floor, or we lay all the full tiles first and then we go back and doing all the cutting. So obviously once I've laid a few more tiles, we can come back, I'll show you a few cuts with a wet tile, and then I'll show you a few cuts with a ruby tile cutter. Right, okay, now I've laid them final tiles. That didn't take no longer than 10 minutes really. Obviously the most important thing is make sure they're square, make sure you're happy with all the joints before your adhesive goes off, and obviously the most time consuming bit is obviously doing all your cuts, maybe around your pottery, or your cut to your walls, cut to your architraves. So what we want to do is just clean off that line of adhesive. So, and then once that's gone off, obviously because, like I say, because that line's been clean, I know that I'm not going to be having to chop out adhesive that's come off. You could do it like that, or alternatively, once you've cleaned it off, if you're not happy that there might be a few bits lying about, just get your sponge, run that through. Just another little tip for you. I'm happy as anything that that's all nice and square, all my joints are the same. With your straight edge, what you could do is just lay this up against your tiles like so, and as you can see, every single one of them tiles is touching along that straight edge. Okay, now we've given our tiles half an hour to set. They've set nice and firm because we've used the rapid set adhesive. So what I'll do now is I'll just pull out all the spacers because we can reuse these. We'll put these in our little tub that we've got. And then once I've pulled all these spacers out of the tiles, then I'll move over the other side. We've finished that bit of floor, and then I'll show you some cuts. Okay, now we've knocked some more adhesive up, we'll start to spread this side. So again, with a trowel, just work it away from the tiles. Exactly the same as the other side really. Right, okay, again, exactly the same procedure, lay your tile. Now, I know that our floor was pretty level, like I said earlier in our video clip. If you're unsure that your floor's not too level, what you want to do is obviously grab yourself a spirit level, which I'll just get off my bench here, and you can actually level all your tiles in. Put them across the tile, push them down, and then just get them nice and level. I mean, that's lovely and level. So, also, if you find your floor is running out too much, you can spread your adhesive. Get yourself a tile. Just clean that up there. Put that to one side. And then what you could do is just dab the back of your tiles, like so. What you don't want to do is create any air pockets. And what you could do is just place this on top of the adhesive and slowly work this in, and then you can find yourself a level. You can push it down at one side because you know the adhesive's under there, and then you know that you can get that level, like so. But that's not only if your floor is obviously running out. So I'll take that tile up because obviously there's too much adhesive on that, and then I'll press that, put that tile to one side. That's just a tip for you, obviously if your floor is running out. Again, get your tile in, and then we'll start putting our our spacers in. Great idea, spacers, because you can always pull them out of the tile. They're not very expensive to buy, but you can pull them out of the tile and then obviously like you can reuse them. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just finish this all the way through. Once I finish this, then we'll come back and I'll show you the cuts to the wall and the cuts to the underside of the bath. Right, okay, I've now laid all my full tiles, put my spacers in between. We'll let that go off and then I'll pull my spacers out. Normally if I was doing a bathroom floor or a kitchen floor, I spread my adhesive up to the wall that I've got to do my cuts to, and I would do my cuts as I go. But on this occasion, because I want to show you how to do cuts properly, I've cleaned the adhesive off of the section where my cut's going to go, so I can show you how to do cuts properly. Now over in the right hand corner, and as you can see, I've got 2 cuts that go into our wall tiles. Also, I've got a bit of an L-shaped tile going on there, so I'll show you how to cut that, either with the ruby cutter or with the wet cutter, and then we finish these tiles all the way along, and then that's that area complete. Right, okay, so what you want to do is obviously measure our tile. Now you can do this in a number of ways. You can put your tape on the floor, take your measurement from the wall to the tile, take away the thickness of your spacer that you're putting in, both against the wall line and against your tile line, or alternatively you can get your tile, you can put it up against the wall, you can allow for your spacer, you can mark your tile like so, which I've done there. Because it's a dark tile, you can see the pencil line's not really showing, so you could use a marker pen and just mark this off with a marker pen. As you can see, it's a red marker and you can see the line a lot better. So like I say, I've marked that. So obviously when I cut my tile through, I'll then reverse that tile round, and that will be the distance that I've got cut to the wall. So I've done that end. What we do is turn the tile round, again, allow for your spacer, and just mark that out. Now what I want to do is take out my red line. So I want to cut to the full size tile to the right hand side. So what we do, we just go over to the ruby cutter, and I'll just show you this. So we place this down. I know that I want to take my line out, so we just adjust the arm. So I want to take my arm, my line out. Now if you've got a lot of tiles to cut, what you could do is set the gauge, which is this mechanism here. It locks into place. Now if you've got 6 or 7 tiles to cut and you know your wall's straight, what you could do is just cut these tiles, and once you place them against your gauge, your cut tile will be exactly the same all the way through. So what we do, we place this onto the tile, onto the ruby tile bed, and I'll show you on this particular cutter we've got a wheel. This will score the tile. We'll bring the tile cutter back on itself, release the arm, and then we push the arm down and it will snap the tile. So if I just show you that, so we just score that through like so, which we've done. If you can see that score line there, and then we push the arm down, and then don't be frightened of it, just push it down and your tile snaps. And as you can see, that's a nice clean break. So what we do is just take our tile over, and before we start putting adhesive down, we just hold that in place, and as you can see, I've got a nice gap for my tile spacer and a nice gap to the wall. So if you're using rapid set adhesive, what you want to do is just lay this down. Don't put any adhesive on it yet, don't knock up any adhesive. Like I say, if you're using rapid it goes off too quick. What you want to do is just cut these tiles in. Once you've done your cutting, then you knock yourself some adhesive up and then start laying them. So I'll cut my next tile, and then I'll show you how to do the L-shaped tile. Okay, I've just cut my second tile into my wall tiles. Now we're on to the L-shaped tile. So what we want to do is we want to place the tile on the floor and line it up with our tiles that we laid earlier, and what we do is just mark this off like so with our pencil, or like I say, with our marker pen. Now I know that we've got skirting going on this return wall here, so you know I haven't got to be tight up to this wall line. So what we do is mark it there, and then we'll pull it back on itself. Again, allow for your tile spacer to go in, and then we cut this one to the wall line like so. So that is the section we want to take out. So we'll take that over to our bench. And then what we do, if you've got a square, what we do is just square this off so we know that we're following our line when we use our wet cutter. Like so. And as you can see, that is the area we want to take out. Right, the machine we're going to use for this is a Ruby wet cutter, fantastic bit of kit, got a diamond blade in it, got a water tray underneath, so obviously when you start it up the water spins onto the blade and it keeps the blade nice and cool, which allows it to stay sharp for longer. Again, I can't stress enough, when you're using like electrical equipment, electrical tools, cutters, etc., always wear your safety glasses. So we stick our safety glasses on, we start our machine up, and as you can see there's water coming out of the blade now. And what we do is just run this, let the blade do the work, don't force it, because you just blunt the blade. Like so. And again. And as you can see, that's given us a nice cut there. So we'll take the glasses off and just take this over to where we're going to lay it. And we just dry lay this for now and just have a look, make sure we're happy with it. And as you can see, that's nice down that line. And like I say, I've got a bit of a gap there. It doesn't matter because obviously I've got skirting going on there. Now I've cut these, because I'm using a rapid set adhesive, I'll now knock up a bit of adhesive and then get these laid. Don't knock up the adhesive. If you're going to use rapid set adhesive, don't knock it up before you've done your cutting. By the time you've done all your cutting, you go back to your bucket, the adhesive's gone hard. So, I'll knock up some adhesive and then I'll come back and I'll relay these right to the end and then we move on from there. Okay, now I've knocked my adhesive up. What I'll do is I'll lay this round here. So we'll just clean that off. Like I say, normally I'd have that all spreaded and I'd have just laid these straight down. So what we do, because we're tight on room there, we just lay this, put the adhesive on the back side of the tile, like so. Make sure you cover the whole of the tile. You don't want any air gaps in it. And by the time we push this down, all that adhesive would have spreaded across. So we just lay that in there, like so. Get a spacer, put our spacer in. Like that. Again, back of the tile. As you start laying the tiles, you'll know how much adhesive to put on the floor or put on the back edge of the tile. What you don't want to do is put too much adhesive on the back of the tile, so you're forever trying to push it into place, and then, like I say, once you're pushing it down, all the adhesive comes through the gaps, and then you'll be a while cleaning it up. So I'm happy with that. I'll just pull that back on itself again, like so. Right, now we'll get our L-shaped tile. Spread the adhesive on the back of here. Like so. And we just lay this into position. Always try and push it down, make sure the adhesive is key to the tile, and obviously the wood that it's the subfloor that it's fixing to. So we push that in like so, get our spacers going internally like that. Right, okay, so what we do is, now we're on a full run again, we can just spread this now. And that finishes that whole area off now. Once you get these 3 tiles down. Okay, we just put our last tile into position, like so. Again, spacers. That's nice, like that, that's it. What we do then is just clean, like I say, clean up the boundary edges with your trowel. It's a lot easier to do this when it's wet, because when it goes hard it's a nightmare. You have to start chopping it out with a hammer and chisel. Right, okay, so that gets all that area done. As you can see, we've shown you how to cut tiles. What I do is work on the far side. I get all these tiles cut, get them all into position. Once I've cut them, we remove our spacers once all the adhesive goes off, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how to knock up some grout and how to grout this floor. Okay, now you can see I've done all my cuts around the boundaries from floor to wall. Now let me just show you over here. Now I might have carpet in this room, and obviously I've got another L-shaped tile going on here. The other problem I've got is I've got architrave. Now I can cut my tile and then I can nibble it out with my nibblers, which takes an awful long time. Or just a little tip, we use these little machines now, which is a fine tool, and that's got like a blade on it, and what happens, it buzzes, goes backwards and forwards. You can adjust the speed on it, and what we tend to do is we, around maybe skirtings and architraves and door stops, we will just nibble the bottom of the architrave off, and I'll show you that now. Instead of us nibbling this tile out, what we do is we put the tile on the floor, allow for the adhesive, so raise it up a little tiny bit, and then what we do is just scribe that across, like so. And as you can see, I've got a line through there. Now, I'll put my safety glasses on. I'll just show you this in principle how this works. What we do, put the safety glasses on, we get a nibbler. And like I say, these are a great tool, they've got different speeds on them, you can slow them down or fasten them up. And what I want to do is just take the bottom of that architrave off. So I go beyond my line so the tile slips underneath it. Again, always wear your safety glasses. As you can see, we can just pull that piece out. Just needs a little tiny bit more on it. Right, okay, that's right out there. Let me just get my little dustpan and my little brush that I've got. I'll just clean this out. Okay, now I've taken out the bottom section of my architrave. I just checked that with my little template tile, and as you can see, that flies underneath. And once I get my adhesive underneath there, there'll be a nice little gap there, which I can either silicone or like I can grout in. So let's get a full tile. Just put that on the floor. Now, obviously, once my tile's laid, I want that to finish a little tiny bit underneath my door when my door's shut, because in this room here I might carpet this, and I've got tile, so I'll get a nice carpet to tile trim. So what we do is just mark this off like so, and then get my spirit level. And what we want to do is just do this on the inside edge of the stop, and this will meet up this section here. I'll just run my pencil across that. As you can see, I've got a pencil line across there. So, right, best to just measure this. So I want to make that 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So measure 2, 1, 2 down. 2, 1, 2. And again, just up the other end. And that will be 2, 1, about 2, 1, 4. So that this wall is actually running out a little tiny bit. So measure down 2, 1, 4. Just get my little tile, my template tile. Just put this on my 2 lines and run this through, like so. And then again, allow for your spacer so that line runs right through. And we just run that through there. keep that nice and square. Run that through. And once I've cut my cutout that I need, I'll actually cut the tile down from the edge of my tile to my line. So let's take it on the wet cutter, put our safety glasses on, start up the wet cutter, and then we know our lines that we're going to follow. Right, okay, we'll just dry this off. Then we'll try it in our space where it's got to go. And then, like I said, we've definitely got to cut the length down as well. So just lay that in. As you can see, that's nice and tight there. And then on our pencil line, we'll just run this across. And again, on our wet cutter, we'll just cut this section off. Like so. Dry it off again. And then before we put our adhesive on the tile itself, we'll just try that again. Make sure we're happy. Whenever you're doing tiling, whenever you're cutting around architraves, you might have to just take it back and tweak it on the wet cutter a little bit, but that seems fine. So we pull that out, get some adhesive that we've got left. And again, just spread this with your notch trowel. Make sure you get plenty of adhesive on this section here, because that light is quite thin, might be a bit of a vulnerable part. Let's turn the tile over and just slide this underneath our architrave that we've cut off. Push that into place, make sure you're nice and level and you're happy with that. Get a couple of tile spacers. Place these into position. Like so. We'll just clean that edge off. And what we do is we'll wait for that to fully go off, let the adhesive go hard. We'll pull all the spacers out, and then once the spacers are out, I'll give it a wash, and then we're ready for grouting. Okay, as you can see, the floor's completely finished. I've taken all my spacers out, all my cuts are done. I've cleaned it out with a little scrubbing brush and a sponge. All the water has dried between the joints, left it a day. Now it's time to obviously grout the floor. So what I've got today, because we've got a grey tile, I've got some feed grey grout. I've got 2 buckets, one with clean water, one with no water, which I'll add water in to knock my grout up. I've got my knocking up spatula for my grout. I've got my squeegee, just got a Stanley knife to undo the bag. I've got a sponge, and if you've got any marigolds at home, always best to try and wear marigolds when you're grouting, because it just gets all in your fingers. And if you're using a dark grout, you'll be finding that you'll be washing your hands for ages to try and get it off. Right, okay then. So first things first, Put our marigolds on, put them on the right hand might help. That's one. That's two. And what we'll do, introduce a bit of water into our bucket. Like so. Shake our grout up. Just split the block bag like so. Add the grout to the water. What you don't want to do is put too much water in. I don't know if you've seen our videos before. If you stick too much water in and you've only got one bag of grout, you'll find that the mixture won't come together and it'll be too runny. So slowly just keep adding the grout to the water. I've got about 8 square metres on this floor, so it'll probably take 3/4 of this bag. What you want to do is knock all the lumps out of it and get a nice creamy consistency, and I'll show you that once I've brought it all together. As you can see, it's starting to come together now. Add a bit more into there, like so, and that should do us. Once that's all brought together, that'll be just the mixture I'm looking for. Right, okay, that's the sort of mixture you're looking for. So what I'll do is just bring that together a bit more, then I'll leave it in the bucket for about 5 minutes, and then once it's been left to stand for 5 minutes or so, I'll then start to grout the floor. Okay, now I've left our grout for about 5 to 10 minutes. That's a nice consistency I'm looking for. So what we do, just put some grout on the floor. Now because we've got white grout on our tile line here, sometimes we do tape up, put some low-tack tape up, save the grout riding up the white line, because this is a light grey. If I was using an anthracite, dark black or something, then I would do that. But like I say, we're using a grey. What we want to do is get our squeegee, and then what we do is just pull it and start working it right into the joint. Make sure you push it right down into your joint. Like so. Just let the squeegee do the work, backwards and forwards like that. Wipe it through, like so. Then what you've done, once you've done an area, just get your squeegee and wipe off the excess as much as you can. And as you're pulling it back, you might see, just have a look over your grout, make sure you've got no pimple holes or whatever. Like I say, just work this in nicely. Make sure you push it right the way down into the joint. Because we washed this floor yesterday, we've got no water in the joints at all. Now if you fix and grout on the same day, you've got a tendency, if you wash out your floor and there's water still between your joints, what happens is when you start to push the grout into the joint, it reverses itself and then the water comes to the top and it takes ages to dry. Anyway, just keep wiping this in. A white grout is a nice grout to use, so on a white tiled floor or something. 3 washes and you're out the door, polish it up, all done. You find when you use a dark grout, you've got to give it at least 3, 4, maybe 5 washes. Right, okay, what you want to do is carry on that procedure all the way through, all over the tiles. Leave it for 10-15 minutes, that's what we'll do, we leave it 10-15 minutes, come back to us and I'll show you how we just wash it off. Right, okay, we've grouted our floor all the way through, we've left it for about 10-15 minutes, now it's time to start wiping our grout off. Now I showed you in some previous videos about washing grout off. What you want to do is get your sponge, get a nice sponge as well, don't have too much water on it, keep it flat, and then just wipe across the joints, like so. You want to do this all the way across the floor. Try not to make it too wet. Right, on your first wash you just want to carry out that procedure all the way through. Leave it another 5 minutes, get yourself another clean bucket of water, wash again, same procedure, leave 5 minutes, get another clean bucket of water, and 3 times should do you. And I'll show you that once I've carried out the final wash. Right, okay, that's our final wash today. I've given that 4 washes now. Tomorrow morning that will be a little bit dusty, so I'll get a nylon cloth and just give that a good buff up, and that'll look lovely, that floor. So another job completed. Thanks very much for watching the video. I hope the videos that we're showing you at the moment are helping you to carry out any work that you're carrying out in the house yourself. Remember, all your tools and materials can be purchased through Tedswoodworking, and please stay tuned for more of Tommy's Trade Secrets.